We'll move on to the last talk of this session by Dr. Sushil Azad on cardiac catheterization, when to do and how to do.
Good morning all, and I'll thank Prashant and Dr. Rama sir for giving me this opportunity. For the index patient cardiac cath in pulmonary hypertension, when and how to do. Actually, I find this question relatively wrong. When is not the question for me. How to do and how safely to do is the right question. By the end of the talk, hopefully I should be able to convince you all with that. So as we all know that right heart catheterization plays a central role in identifying pulmonary hypertension disorders. Not only identifying, but reaching a definitive diagnosis is primarily based on right heart catheterization. But despite its widespread acceptance, it is still underutilized in routine clinical practice. Apart from the diagnosis, in conjunction with the non-invasive test, the right heart cath helps in monitoring the treatment response as well as establishing the prognosis. Why I say that? There was a multi-center referral study which was published in 2013. The primary aim for this study was to assess the pattern of referral, how late they are referred, and to assess the treatment given to these supposedly pulmonary hypertension patients, whether the diagnosis was correct or misdiagnosed, or there was a misdiagnosis. So as per this study, out of 140 patients, 86 patients were referred late in NYHA class 3 and 4, and less than half had to undergo cardiac cath at the referral center. Out of these half, more than 40% of patients were misdiagnosed prior to reaching the tertiary centers. And of all those patients, the treatment, in fact, the treatment was also contrary to the published guidelines. So that's an important information for me. Now, according to the updated hemodynamic classification of the PH published in 2018, the pre-capillary pulmonary hypertension, the mean PA pressures should be more than 20, and pulmonary arterial wedge pressure should be less than 15. And the PVR should be more than 3. Now, to distinguish between the isolated post-capillary or combined pre-capillary and post-capillary, the cath becomes mandatory, because you can only distinguish by measuring the correct pulmonary arterial wedge pressures. If they are more than 15 and the PVR is less than 3, it's a pre-capillary hypertension, post-capillary hypertension. And if the PVR is also high, then it's a combined pre- and post-capillary hypertension. Now, according to the practice guidelines, the algorithm which has been published to establish the diagnosis of PH, the right heart cath forms a central key investigation to the diagnosis. So all patients who have symptoms, unexplained symptoms like dyspnea on exertion, syncope, after the routine screening with echocardiography, the right heart catheterization has to be performed to establish the correct diagnosis. So the current recommendations for right heart catheterization in PH, according to that, it's a class 1 recommendation for all group 1 and group 4 patients. Apart from that, it's also recommended as a class 2A indications in all the patients with group 1 PH who are on treatment to see the effect of treatment on these particular patients. So currently, whenever we do a cardiac cath, we measure certain hemodynamic parameters. And this right heart cath has to be comprehensive assessment, includes cardiac output assessment, assessment of mixed venous saturations, PA pressure assessment, pulmonary arterial wedge pressure assessment, and right atrial and right ventricular pressure assessment. And from these parameters, we calculate the other derived measurements like transpulmonary gradient, which is the difference between the diastolic, between the mean pulmonary artery pressures and the pulmonary artery wedge pressures, and the diastolic pressure gradient, which is the difference between the diastolic pressure, pulmonary artery pressure, and the pulmonary arterial wedge pressure. And PVR and PVRI index has to be calculated as also the cardiac index. Now coming to the pulmonary arterial wedge pressure measurements. This has to be measured correctly to ensure a correct diagnosis. So for this, the balloon, we usually use a balloon tip catheter like Swan Gaze. The balloon should ideally be inflated in the right atrium and should then be gradually advanced till it reaches the pulmonary arterial wedge pressure. To ensure safety, the repeated inflations and deflations in the wedge position should be avoided because it carries the risk of pulmonary arterial rupture. And subsequently, the PA wedge pressure should be recorded as a mean of 3 measurements at the end expiration. Now, this is a particular example. As we can clearly see, the pulmonary arterial wedge pressure should be measured at end expiration. This is very important. Now, what are the pitfalls? The accurate measurement of pulmonary arterial wedge pressure is important to differentiate pulmonary hypertension associated with left heart disease from pre-capillary pulmonary hypertension conditions. The factors that can lead to errors are overinflation of the balloon. Overinflammation can also lead to rupture of the pulmonary arteries, apart from measuring the pulmonary arterial wedge pressure fallaciously high. Underwedging, this is especially seen in severe pulmonary arterial hypertension patients. Because of the enlarged pulmonary artery, the balloon is unable to wedge. This can also lead to overestimation of pulmonary arterial wedge pressures. Sometimes, because patient is already on diuretics, it may not be able to assess the pulmonary arterial wedge pressure correctly in these particular patients, in patients with left heart disease, because of the use of diuretics. In this particular set of patients, there is a recommendation to give a volume challenge of around 500 ml over a period of 10 minutes to unmask the correct pulmonary arterial wedge pressures. Now, as per regarding the what is the correct way to measure the pulmonary arterial wedge pressure, whether it should be measured during end expiration or during, you need to take an average of the inspiration and expiration throughout the respiratory cycle. There is a lot of debate, though the current recommendation as per the European guidelines is the end expiration. But there has been a recent study which was published of 380 patients who were normally breathing, and in that particular study they found that if we measure the end pulmonary arterial wedge pressure during end expiratory, we overestimate the pulmonary arterial wedge pressure as compared to if we average it throughout the respiratory cycle. So they said it overestimates the pulmonary arterial wedge pressure, and therefore overestimates the patients who have supposedly to be left heart disease. So that is a point of debate which still continues, but as per the current recommendation, it has to be measured under the as at end expiratory. Now, coming to the cardiac output measurement, there are various methods which have been described. Though thermodilation method is the preferred method, unfortunately, it is not available. We currently use the indirect fixed method, which assumes the oxygen consumption, and we check the mixed venous and systemic oxygen saturation and then calculate the cardiac output. And this needs to be indexed according to the body surface area. Now, whenever we are suspecting any left to right shunt, we need to do a complete oximetry setup. Suppose we take the pulmonary artery saturations, and if the saturations are more than 75%, it is recommended that we do a complete oximetry step up. Any step up of more than 7% from SVC to RA is significant, and from RV to PA more than 5% is considered to be significant. Coming to the other important measurement, which is the PVRI measurement, and it helps in, it is very crucial in establishing the diagnosis of PH, and it is derived by the ratio of transpulmonary pressure gradient to the cardiac output. And any PVRI more than 3 Wood units is, as noticed in the previous table, is the part of the hemodynamic definition of the pulmonary arterial hypertension. And this can only be calculated when we do a cardiac cath. This cannot be calculated by any other method. The other important aspect of doing a cardiac cath is the vasoreactivity testing. This is a very important aspect. This is primarily indicated, a class 1 indication is idiopathic, heritable, and drug and toxin induced PH only. The rationale is because it identifies patients with better prognosis and survival, and the responders are more likely to have a sustained beneficial response to oral calcium channel blockers. And this can only be identified if we do a cardiac cath and vasoreactivity testing. So how do we define a positive response? The positive response is basically the Sitbon criteria is used. It is a decrease in mean PA pressure by at least 10 millimeters of mercury to a value less than 40 mmHg with a sustained cardiac output. But in subjects who have PA pressure less than 40, a drop of mean PA pressure to at least 10 millimeters of mercury without a fall in cardiac output is also considered a positive response. This definition is used in both in adults and children. The long-term benefit is defined as persistent improvement in NYHA class after at least 1 year of calcium channel blocker therapy. What is the agents that can be used? Inhaled nitric oxide is the preferred agent. The dose is between 10 to 80 parts per million. The IV epoprostenol or IV adenosine or inhaled iloprost are the other drugs which can be used. We use IV adenosine primarily because we don't have NO, but yes, if it is available, that is the drug of choice. Adenosine can be used from 50 to 250 microgram per kg per minute, gradually increased every 2 minutes. Now, the other important aspect is how to identify patients who have pulmonary hypertension associated with left heart disease. This can only be done by cardiac cath, because we know that if pulmonary hypertension is present in left heart disease, the symptoms are more severe and it carries a worse outcome. And the treatment also differs widely through, therefore, it has to be categorically defined whether the patient has a pre or post capillary hypertension, and this can only be done based on cath. Another frequent issue, as I highlighted previously as well, if the patient has a heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, the presence of the pulmonary arterial wedge pressure may come out to be normal. In such scenario, it is recommended that we give a IV fluid bolus challenge of around 500 ml of normal saline over 5 to 10 minutes is considered to be safe and has been done regularly by us. The use of exercise challenge in conjunction with right heart cath may enable a clear distinction, but correctly lacks standardization. What are the indications of left heart study along with the right heart study? If the PA wedge pressure measurements are incorrect or we have doubt on the PA wedge pressure, we can always measure the left ventricle and diastolic pressure. Or if we want to do a coronary angiography, if the risk factors are present, or if the patient is listed for transplant, then it makes an indication for left heart study. What are the contraindications? There are only a few absolute contraindications, like presence of mechanical tricuspid or pulmonary valve, right heart mass, or right side endocarditis. Other are relative contraindications like presence of pacemaker, coagulopathy, arrhythmias. These are all relative contraindications. The complications, the overall reported serious complication rate is only around 1%, with mortality rate of around 0.06% in patients with pulmonary hypertension. Rest are all routine complications which can be easily managed, but seen very infrequently if done in a correct way. So what is the current utilization and applications? So as we can see, in stepwise algorithm, the right heart is a required diagnostic step to confirm the diagnosis of PH. But still nobody does it, as has been mentioned in the registries previously as well. The primary reason could be the fragile nature of the patients, but as I said, with the relatively very few contraindications and rare complications, it doesn't justify completely omitting the right heart cath from diagnostic algorithm, but oppositely, it increases the likelihood of misdiagnosis. So apart from ensuring diagnostic accuracy, the hemodynamic information which is obtained by right heart cath can also use to guide treatment. But we have to do it correctly, and correct measurements has to be taken, and correct interpretation of these hemodynamics has to be done to assure a correct diagnosis. Thank you. As per the index patient, I would still want to do a cardiac cath in these patients. It has to be done in a safe way, but for me, cardiac cath is mandatory for the index patient.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sushil.